What's up, guys? I'm back with another breakthrough in vehicle builds in Tears of the Kingdom. I'm super excited to show you guys my Bulldozer build. It can scoop up and dump enemies, NPCs, and pretty much anything you want. You'll even be able to pick up babes with this thing. And don't worry, because I'm going to go step by step on how to get all the items you'll need for this and how to assemble it. My inspiration for this build came from a player called Belligerent. Belligerent showed off a really cool fishing boat that utilized a big wheel as an arm mechanism to lift a scoop on the front of the boat up and down. Using the same scoop concept, I was able to create a bulldozer. And the way it works is actually surprisingly simple. Alright, let's get right into the tutorial. First, we'll need to collect a few special items for this build. You'll want to head towards the Ihenna Shrine, which is near Zora's Domain on your map. Specifically, there's an enemy camp right here that we're going to head towards. Once you get here, you'll want to head up the hill to the right towards the Mipha statue. Then you can jump off of this tower and use Tulin to fly over to the enemy camp. Right here you'll see two large metal cages. Fuse one to either a shield or a weapon. The next item location is going to be at the abandoned Hiteno mine, down in the depths. Once you arrive, run over to the left side of the mine, and you'll find two large metal spikes. You'll only need one of these, but you can get both of them if you want your bulldozer to be extra deadly. Then you're going to want to head over to Tenoko Island, which is right here near Eventide Island. You can get here by teleporting either to the Bamatok Shrine or the Hiteno Village Observatory. This one is a bit farther away than the other locations, so if you don't have Tulin yet, or your stamina is not quite upgraded enough, you may want to make a hover bike to get over to this island. Once you finally make it to Tenoko Island, you can again fuse a boat to either a shield or a weapon. And lastly, there is one more item you can get at the John Sao Shrine, but this one is completely optional. It doesn't really change the effectiveness of this particular vehicle, but it will make it so that if you accidentally drive into water, your vehicle will float. So once you have everything that you need, you can teleport to the Rasatakawak Shrine and fly over to Terrytown. Once you get to Terrytown, go and talk to Pelison at the Break It Apart shop. He can break apart all those items you just fused safely for the cost of 20 rupees. So have him break apart the cage, boat, spikes, and yellow platform if you got one of those. As he breaks them apart, you can fuse them in a big pile to the left. These don't need to look pretty yet, this is just for transportation. And then you can carry them down the rail cart with Ultra Hand to the construction zone down below. I want to remind you guys again, do not hit the rail cart with a heavy weapon or a fire weapon, because it will destroy the rail cart. And when the guy goes to rebuild it, it'll despawn all of your stuff. But the nice thing is, once you get down here, a lot of the other materials that you'll need for this build are already here for free. Here is everything you'll need to make your bulldozer. Either a rubber or a stone platform, 5 large wheels, 1 metal pole, 1 metal cage, spikes, a steering stick, and a boat. I would also recommend pulling out a stake because it will make building it much easier. Put the stake into the ground and then grab whichever platform you're going to use. You then can place the platform on top of the stake and fuse it to the middle. This will keep it up in the air so it's easier to put your big tires on. You can adjust its position so that it's in an easy place to work with. The next step will be to put all 4 tires onto the vehicle. Just like my rock climbing car, which you should definitely check out if you haven't yet, you'll want to put these underneath the platform instead of flush to the side. By connecting them to the underside of each corner, you'll get a bit more clearance so that you won't bottom out quite as often. You'll also want to make sure that the tread of the tires are all facing the same way on your vehicle. If you look at the arrows on the tread, they should all be facing forward. Once you get all of them aligned properly, you can then remove the stake because you won't need it anymore. The next thing we'll want to grab is the boat. The boat needs to be centered right in the middle of your platform. If you're trying to fuse it from a side view like this, it can be a bit difficult to tell if you're right in the center. So you'll want to go around and make sure that it's actually centered on all the sides, and if not, you can simply shake the boat and detach it and then try to refuse it. Now you might be wondering why the boat is required in the first place, And we'll get to that in a second when we attach the actual bulldozer arm. For the next part, you can climb into the boat. You can grab the steering stick with Ultra Hand and then fuse it to the inside of the boat. The placement of it is not too important, but I like fusing it to the back end of the boat, right about here. Next, you'll want to go and get that metal pole. The purpose of the pole is to prevent your cage from pivoting so far that you run over it with the front wheels of your vehicle. It won't function correctly if you don't have this. At the time of recording this, I was fusing this to the right side right here, but after further testing, I think it's better to actually place it right in the center of the front of your vehicle like this. Once you've got that on, you can grab your metal cage and rotate it so that the opening of the cage is facing towards you. Now it's time to put the spikes in. So grab your spikes and turn them sideways, and then you can center them right at the bottom of the cage so that when enemies get caught inside of it, it'll repeatedly damage them. If you did decide to do 2 spikes, there's enough room to fit 2 of them in side by side on the bottom. Okay, now it's time to make the arm. You're going to want to grab this last tire and fuse it to the upper left side of the boat. You'll want to make sure that the tread of the tire is going in the same direction as all your other tires. And if you look at the edge of the tire, it should not be rubbing up against the side of the boat. If it is rubbing up against the side, then break it off and try again. Then you'll want to grab your cage and place it on the center front of your vehicle. It should be attached directly onto the side of the tire like this. But you're not done quite yet. You're going to want to test drive it to make sure it's functioning properly. When you drive forward, the cage should drop down so that the front end of it is rubbing against the ground. And when you go into reverse, it lifts the cage up like this. There's a couple of problems you could run into with this functionality. If your metal pole isn't placed properly, the entire metal cage could get caught up underneath your vehicle. Or if you go into reverse and the cage is resisting being lifted up, that probably means that the wheel that acts as the arm is too close to the side of the boat and it's rubbing up against it. The other thing that could go wrong is that you're having trouble scooping things up with it. If that's the case, it probably means you need to change the angle at which your cage is fused to the wheel. If you look here, you can see that the angle at which the cage approaches the ground was a bit steep. So to fix this, I'm going to place it back onto the tire, but a little bit lower than before. This will make the angle less steep and it will be more easy to scoop things up. One other optional thing that you can add to your bulldozer to make it even more destructive is to put a shock emitter in the inside of the cage. This will make the entire cage conduct electricity, but I have found that it's a little bit more difficult, surprisingly, to scoop up enemies that are being electrocuted. But you can always experiment with it and see what kind of style you like the best. Now please enjoy this short montage where I show off exactly what the bulldozer can do. If you guys enjoyed checking out this build, or if I was able to help you out in building it yourself, leaving a like on the video would really help me out. I've got a lot more crazy builds and tutorials to show you guys in Tears of the Kingdom, so if you don't want to miss out on them when they're released, hit the subscribe button. And if you missed my last video on how to build a rock climbing car that can climb anything, I'll have a link to that in the comments and in the description down below. Thanks guys.